Yo, what it do? What it be, y'all? It's your boy, Agent 8 and T, repping the Spell Block Agency, coming to y'all with a little Cold War commentary. And so, I told y'all I wanted to do a series on more organized crime, on my last War Chirac video. So, here it is, y'all. Welcome to the first episode of Kingpins and Capos, and today we gonna be covering Murder Inc. No, not Ja Rule and Irv Gotti's record label, because don't get me wrong, Mesmerize and Put It On Me were hits, but the real Murder Inc. was doing different kind of hits, and the name speaks for itself. I mean, they was out here getting guys out of here, getting guys gone. And basically from 1929 to 1941, Murder Inc. pretty much operated as a group of contract killers for the New York mafia families and pretty much the crime syndicate, the national crime syndicate. But I'll get more into the syndicate later in other videos too, because they were going crazy on organized crime back in the early days. But I've kind of talked about Murder Inc. before in my Dutch Schultz video, and Dutch was one of their more infamous hits, if you will. And actually, thanks to Dutch's murder, Thomas Dewey's life would be spared, and he would go on to convict a lot of high-profile mobsters, including some of the Murder Inc.'s top members after one of the OGs flipped. But again, more on that in a minute. A very little-known fact about the mob and the Italian mafia is the rumor or the myth that they only worked with Italians. Now, yes, Italians were the only ones that could be quote unquote made men, and in that era of the mob, and even now, you have to have, in order to have a made member killed in any family, really, the commission has to, or would have to okay the orders. And when the orders were okayed, back in these days, they would call up Murder Inc. and Murder Inc. would get the job done. Yes, the Italian mafia worked specifically, only made members could join, but it's not like they didn't have criminals of other nationalities working along with them. So, like I said, for the most part, it's true to be a made member in the Italian mafia, you had to be of Italian descent. However, when you look at the origins of Murder Inc., it started with a partnership between Bugsy Siegel, yes, that Bugsy Siegel, and a Jewish mobster by the name of Meyer Lansky. And Siegel was Italian, like I said, Lansky was Jewish, and most of the guys in Murder Inc. were Italian and Jewish. And while they mostly took orders from Lucky Luciano's commission, they also handled contracts from the Jewish mob, the Irish mobs in New York, and the Chicago outfit. And when Kid Twist Rellies flipped to the feds to avoid the electric chair, it exposed this sort of grand conspiracy that despite their bloody murders and trials being covered by the media, what wasn't being covered was the fact that the criminal underworld was a lot more connected than anyone had imagined. I mean, yeah, sure, everyone kind of knew about the commission and five families, but the fact that the Jewish and Irish mobs kept in close contact with the mafia and more often than not helped each other in their illicit activities, I mean, they, as much as they hindered each other, really. So when Rellies flipped, it exposed the fact that this kind of national crime syndicate actually existed for the first time. You see kind of how I tied that together? But let's kind of rewind a little bit, because yeah, Siegel and Meyer started what would become Murder Inc., but they started out as the Brownsville Gang, or the Brownsville Boys, or just the Meyer-Siegel Gang. They held a couple legit businesses which fronted a few of the rackets they had, and when they linked up with Albert Anastasia, who pretty much ran the docks, and they also linked up with Jewish mobster Louis Lepke, or Louis Buckhalter, and Murder Inc. was pretty much formed. And although the name Murder Inc. wouldn't be coined until years after all the original members were locked up or had died, there really wasn't an official name for the hit squad during their active years. They were just pretty much the enforcement branch of the mob for over a decade. They would, under the leadership of guys like Lansky, Siegel, and then later Anastasia and Lepke, their membership grew to include Abe Kid Twist Rellies, the rat that I was just talking about. But he was also a well-known killer. and Harry Strauss, aka Pittsburgh Phil, who had a penchant for killing his victims with an ice pick. You got Bugsy Goldstein, who was Abe Rella's partner in crime. He also joined the ranks of the gang. Jacob Shapiro, who is Louis Lepke's longtime associate, also assisted in leading and giving orders, along with Joe Adonis and Tommy Luchese. In the beginning, they mostly did small hits for the Jewish Mafia and the Italian Mafia, and that lasted for a couple years until war broke out between the Italian families in the Castellamare War? Castellamare, something like that. But that was in 1931, and Lucky Luciano organized to have Salvatore Maranzano killed and redistribute wealth between the five families, and also kind of restructure the mafia into the modern hierarchy we kind of see today. So after Luciano's successful coup, then the gang that would become known as Murder Inc. would pretty much become the enforcement branch of the mob, and they would get orders from the new commission or the Jewish mob, which was now headed by Lansky and Luciano. And Lucky Luciano kind of chose not to continue the boss of all bosses moniker, saying it led to too much jealousy and infighting. But because of that, Luciano still had a lot of respect and influence as the head of his own family, and he probably could have been the boss of all bosses and nobody really would have said anything. But again, he was kind of smart, knew that it kind of, that moniker, like, bro, I'm not bigger than anybody, and like, we're all part of the same kind of like some socialistic kind of shit, but kind of crazy. But anyway, Lansky moved on to become a leader in the Jewish mob, as I just mentioned, and Bugsy Siegel had higher aspirations as well. So, like I said, they moved on from leading Murder Inc., and they ceded leadership to Anastasia and Lepke. And not long after Maranzano's murder, under Anastasia and Lepke's leadership, the gang found headquarters in a quiet candy shop. A candy shop of all places. And they played cards and took orders directly from the commission. Like, the candy shop was pretty, like I said, that was their HQ. Like, they would call up the candy shop, tell them, hey, we got to get this dude gone. They would have a little meeting as to who was going to go on the hit, how the hit would be done, and then that was that. They would get him gone. And, so Lansky moved on to become a leader in the Jewish mob, as I just mentioned, and Bugsy Siegel had higher aspirations as well. So Bugsy kind of moved on to doing Vegas. He was a big mob figure in the early Vegas days. Actually, kind of put money in. Was one of the first mobsters to put money into a casino and stuff like that. And then with this new leadership of Murder Inc. under Anastasia and Lepke, like, they nicknamed Albert Anastasia the High Lord Executioner. And, Louis Buckhalter, he was kind of just, but Anastasia was the real, he was a demon out there. And not only did they just get calls and do hits for the commission, they also, would get witnesses gone for each other. Like, oh, this guy was a witness to your murder, bro. Don't even trip. I'll take him out for you. You got his addy? For sure. I'll drop the low. I'll get him gone. So, and pretty much never before, and never, since then was there such an organized group of killers. And on top of that, they were working for the first and probably the most powerful version of the National Crime Syndicate of America, at least. They had over 1,000 murders under their belt. I mean, supposedly. That's how many people were disappeared and were getting gone during, from 1929 to 1941. And the whole group as a whole, they definitely, no doubt, in my mind, they could have definitely committed 1,000 murders with the way they was. Because that's one thing, like, a lot of people get get misconstrued, is the fact that, yes, like, back in the day, there was more structure to gangs and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't no violence. Like, if anything, the violence was worse. You know, like, for real. Oh, tried to get the assassination and it fucked up on me, but oh well. But yeah, it's not like, oh, you know, back in the day there was more structure, so there was less killings. Actually, on the contrary, there was a lot more killings. The media was just better at kind of covering it up because they had the cops and the media on payroll, kind of. So that's that. You don't get to see, you know, a lot of the violence. Like, a lot of people like to point to Chicago. Like, there's not, I mean, they're not killing any more people in Chicago right now than they probably were killing in the 20s and 30s. You know, it's just a lot more, you know, the age of the internet, we get to see it. But, you know, like, stuff like the Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago, and, you know, some of the murder scenes these guys had, like, bro, like I said, Pittsburgh Phil was murdering dudes with a fucking ice pick. Like, what? But anyways, so like I said, like, for over a decade they had a pretty decent operation going, but all good things gotta come to an end at some point. What goes up must come down, and a man by the name of Thomas Dewey was on a mission to expose and dismantle organized crime in New York and bring to justice some of the biggest gangsters on the East Coast. Now, here's where Dutch Schultz comes into play, because he wanted Dewey gone because he recognized the threat that Dewey was to the mob's way of life and these gangsters' way of life. So Dutch went to the commission to sanction Dewey's murder, because even though Dewey wasn't a made man, in order to commit murder you had to, you know, go to the commission, and the commission would be like, yeah, go ahead, bro, he's nobody. This time they said no, and they pretty much said killing Dewey would bring too much heat down, so no. Dutch said okay, and it's kind of a flip of the coin at this point, because okay, you take Dewey out, yes, there might be more heat, or they might bring in the feds, but at that point, like, bro, like, y'all are getting gone, like, had the power to get him gone and kill him, and keeping him alive pretty much brought down y'all's operation anyway. So it was pretty much a moment of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Kind of rocking a hard place. So, like I said, Dutch went to the commission to sanction Dewey's murder. They basically said no, and pretty much Dutch said okay, and was like, "Nah, I'm gonna kill him anyways because they're comfortable not get, you know, I'm the next on bro's list, you know." But somehow, some way, the commission found out that Dutch was gonna kill Dewey, even after they told him no. So they sent out Murder Inc. to go kill Dewey. And Murder Inc. Not Dewey. They sent out Murder Inc. to go kill Dutch. So they killed Dutch. And lo and behold, since they killed Dutch, they got him out the way. So now there wouldn't be a trial that was next on Dewey's list. And so Dewey was able to go after the next man on his list, who was Albert Anastasia. And it's kind of ironic now, because after they found out that, you know, oh, Anastasia is the next dude on Dewey's list that he's going to prosecute, they started just killing a whole bunch of witnesses and leaving, like, you know, they just started executing witnesses and mobsters all affiliated with Dewey, and it's like, or all affiliated with Anastasia, and it's like, bro, if y'all would have just got rid of Dewey to begin with, y'all wouldn't have even probably had to do all this. Y'all probably would have had to do it eventually, but not now, bro. Like, y'all could have probably bought you even more time, because, like, feds probably would have had to be like, okay, they out here killing the only man who was down to even prosecute them. Okay, that's a problem. Like, who are we got to make a decision. That's putting more pressure on the feds. Feds put pressure on them. They didn't think I mean, that's what happens when you think you're untouchable. They swore up and down that the highest people in power weren't going to get touched, or and even some of the bigger guys, they ratted and got immunity and shit. So it's like, bruh, like, y'all really could have, I don't know. Like I said, they were kind of damned if they did take him out, because what happens if they do bring in more police presence? And then it's kind of like damned if you don't, because if you don't kill him, look at exactly what happened. Everybody went down anyways. But so pretty much they killed Dutch, and that allowed Dewey to set his sights on Albert Anastasia, the High Lord Executioner. What a dope nickname, no cap. Which kind of led to Abe Reles flipping on Murder Inc. because he had a family. He went to them and was like, "Hey, I got a family, bro. I'll tell y'all everything y'all need to know as long as I get immunity." And that's how it all happened. He flipped, and he basically exposed a lot on how the five families operated, how they operated with other, crime syndicates, and how like the National Crime Syndicate kind of operated. And I mean, he exposed the influence that they had. I mean, and even hundreds, if not thousands, of killings committed by the mobs and Murder Inc. So thanks to Kid Twist, Abe Kid Twist Reles singing like a canary, like, and they said, this is what they said. They said, quote, "He sang like no canary had ever sang before." And the feds were able to prosecute, like I said, a lot of the high-ranking killers, such as Pittsburgh Phil, Reles' former partner in crime, Bugsy Goldstein, Lepke Buckhalter. The feds were never really able to prosecute Anastasia because Reles was killed before he could give him up. But Anastasia lost a lot of power and influence, with all of his killers, his main guys, getting locked up. And he kind of fell out of favor with the mob because they were telling him, "Hey, you lay low. We'll put you in a little crew, just kind of lay low, just chill, bruh." When somebody got that kind of power and you telling them, "Hey, lay low, chill," you're going to be under somebody else now, bruh. Bro, you go from being a boss to an underboss, bro. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Shout out to my social studies, freshman social studies teacher for teaching that. That's real shit. You can't never, once you the evil dictator, you could never be the president taking orders and with checks and balances and shit. You'll never, fuck all that. The hell is rules, bruh? But, like I said, Anastasia knew too much, and he didn't go to jail, so they had to get him gone because he knew too much. And pretty much the only surviving member to die a natural death out of Murder Inc. was Tommy Luchese, which just goes to show that even back then there were two ways out of the life. Very rarely was there ever a happy ending. You either end up dead or in jail. Like, very rarely you got the one out of however many there was that got to get out and live a decent life after everything. As much as a decent life you can have after having that much money and power. And a lot of, these murders at the time were unsolved. And not much was known about how the mob operated during this time. But today, thanks to guys like Kid Twist Reles, ratting and doing book deals. Motherfuckers doing book deals now. Mob life has been a lot more publicized. Everybody ratting on each other. We got a lot more, kind of like more history on the mob and their inner workings during this time. It's kind of crazy. So I definitely am going to be doing more videos like this. And definitely more like organized crime operations and stuff like that. Like definitely biker gangs and even like, the Black Gangster Disciples back before the split, the Jeff Fort with the Black Peace Stone ring, all that. Definitely a lot of organized crime to cover. It's gonna be lit. So definitely like the Yakuza, like I said, the Latin cartels, Bloods, Crips, the older gangs in Chicago, even like the Outfit and stuff like that. Like I'm gonna be on that. It's kind of what I'm gonna be doing. It's gonna be taking up more of my time instead of the war in Chirac. I'm gonna still be doing the war in Chirac every now and then, but this is gonna be the main kind of crime series I'm gonna be doing for the time being. But yeah, if you like the video, leave a like. Definitely gonna have more content like this dropping soon, so stay tuned. So subscribe and ring the damn bell. Yeah, because I'm gonna have hot content dropping in the future, bro. Nothing stopping. But be safe out here, y'all. Don't get smoked. I had actually one of the few, 2 games in a row I was going crazy. You don't get a lot of. They'll either 1 minute you're doing real good, and then they'll throw you in the lobby where like everybody plays with each other every day and shit. It's crazy. But actually, I really like this game, Cold War. I like it way more than I like the last Modern Warfare. No cap, but that's just me. But like I say, y'all, be safe out there, y'all. Don't get smoked, and I'm out. Peace.